Welcome.
Hello, welcome back to our podcast. We've got another fun little adventure to share with you that we've done.
Yes, behind the scenes with
Behind
Santa
the scenes
and
with
Mrs. Claus.
Santa and Mrs. Claus. That's
Yeah,
right. Yes.
yeah.
And this time we're really going to talk about taking you behind the scenes.
Yes.
Yeah, a lot of people have asked me, well, don't you ever do malls or don't you ever do, a visit where people can line up and see you and that kind of thing?
Yeah.
And we have done that in the past.
Yes.
And in fact, we had quite an interesting situation where we developed basically photos with Santa all season long.
Yeah. Well, not all season long. We didn't.
Yeah.
For just the Christmas season.
Yeah, Thanksgiving through Christmas.
And we did. And, it's kind of funny. We've always kind of gone off on our own to do things. And we have somehow managed to do some more unusual type of things. I guess the usual is just for some reason just not what we like to do.
We don't find much joy in tradition that everybody else does.
Yeah.
So anyway, but getting to the point, there were several years that we actually set up a photos with Santa. In fact, a beautiful sleigh.
Yes.
Gorgeous.
We had a hand painted backdrop.
Yeah, it was really
pretty. It was
and
very,
people
very
that got
festive.
their pictures absolutely were thrilled to death. They loved them.
Yes.
And we had people come from 8 different states to visit us.
Yes.
And this was all done in Sevierville, Tennessee. And it was done at the Tanger
Outlet Mall. Yeah.
And I'll tell you, it was great. And people, why don't you do that anymore? Because we froze our butkus off.
Yeah, it was. When we sat down with Tanger to do this, they had not had a Santa and Mrs. Claus, and of course, they were. At least at that time, certainly, probably still are, didn't have any open stores, so it's not like they were just looking to stick somebody in a store.
No, they had every square inch filled.
Yeah, and but they had, and if you've ever been there, you'll certainly see it. It is a very, very large gazebo.
Yes.
And that is where they said, well, you could use the gazebo.
Yeah, why don't you use the gazebo? And we said,
well, that's fine.
That's not a huge problem. And we had the most phenomenal photographer.
Yes.
And his name was Tim Burke. I got to give him credit.
Yeah.
For years,
for Tim. Yeah.
He really was wonderful and took some fabulous shots.
Yes.
Of us with the kids and that kind of thing.
Yes, he was very good.
And it was lovely. I mean, we started at like I guess 10 o'clock, except on Sunday we started at 11. And went until basically 8 o'clock at night.
We went till 8 o'clock.
5 o'clock, I think, on Sundays. So,
yeah.
And then we had Monday off.
Yeah.
Now, this gazebo was fabulous.
It was
big.
And we had it beautifully decorated, as Joe said. It really was. It was festive. We had poinsettias and in addition to the sleigh, and it was really, really nice.
Everybody loved it.
Yeah.
Which is one of the reasons why we had visitors come from so many different states.
Yes, we did.
There was one little issue with it.
Yes.
Not only was it outside, but that gazebo was the biggest wind tunnel you ever wanted to feel.
It was.
Oh my goodness.
that first season, of course, we had no idea, when we, even when we went up and set up and stuff, I think, I don't know whether the wind wasn't blowing or, or you were distracted maybe because you were doing something and you were working and maybe you didn't, just sitting stationary, feel the wind. And it wasn't really until we really started and
got
we
into
were
the season.
coming every day, and it was, boy, is that cold. And it was cold.
And I'll tell you, it got really, people would say, oh, it doesn't freeze until it's, bet me.
It does.
Bet me. We had snow. We had sleet. We had wind galore.
Oh,
and,
it was
my
terribly
God.
windy.
In fact.
It was, well, and then the first year, I remember this so well. It was Christmas Eve. And it was so cold. It was, I want to say in the 30s.
No, it was in the high 20s. In the high 20s. And we were outside, of course.
Yeah, of course we were outside.
And the wind was blowing, of course.
Joe's hat
went straight out.
No, and I'm not exaggerating, honestly.
We have pictures.
Yeah, his hat was straight out.
It blew all the way straight back.
And Tim, who was not only an excellent photographer, but he was an absolute magician with our printer. And one of the things we ended up having to do is, he was bringing in hair dryers and everything else to try and keep.
We had outdoor heaters going. We had everything
through the year through the season we were adding things, but that particular Christmas Eve was so cold, and I was trying to work the computer because what he'd do is Tim would take a picture. And then it would come up on my computer screen, and we could show it to the customer and see what kind of package that they wanted. And I was so cold, and of
she
course
couldn't move her fingers.
No, and we were really hoping that nobody would come, but it was amazing how many people showed up on Christmas Eve.
Couldn't believe
in that cold, in that oh my gosh, it was so cold.
There was a crowd.
Yes, yes.
And we're like.
Yeah, I know. It was, and
I had my heaviest coat on.
Yes,
I had my pants on. I had long underwear on underneath my pants, and the hat that pulled down about as low as you could do.
Yeah, and I think I pulled everything. I wasn't.
Yeah, you were completely.
Yeah, I did, and I must have looked at like Nanook in the north, but finally we got through the line, and we finally actually had to call it because it was so cold. Everything was freezing up, including the computer.
Thank God, right across the way was the chop house.
Yeah.
And we went in there and we said, we'll take a bowl of anything warm.
Yeah.
Whatever, coffee, soup, broth, just bring us warm stuff.
Yeah.
Our hands were like red.
Because I couldn't wear my mittens because of the keyboard, or my gloves even because I couldn't get, it was too much of the keyboard. So my hands were just red and.
So the next year we said, well, we're not going to go through that again.
No.
We're going to put up a backdrop around to protect us.
Yes.
And oh my God, you should have seen all the drapes and piping and
it got like tent material.
We got tent material. We got everything possible that you could do to try and block off. And the wind just blew it all through.
Yeah, it was better.
It went right through.
It was better, but because the first year we had nothing to stop that wind. We were just, and so the second year was better. It was certainly not. I'm not going to say it was warm by any stretch of the imagination, but I think the
weather cooperated a little more.
And the wind, it did deter the wind just a little bit. So you weren't quite. Like his hat wouldn't fly.
Yeah. My hat wasn't off somewhere, off my head practically. So. But Mrs. Claus's teeth were still chattering, and Tim was still sitting there with the hair dryer going. The film actually froze.
Yeah.
He had frozen film, so it wouldn't roll properly for the picture.
Yeah, we had.
And he had to stand there with a hair dryer.
Yeah, we had a big Kodak printer, which was actually what they used firm walls for professional things for the Santas.
Great workhorse.
Yeah,
I mean,
oh
if
my
we
gosh.
were indoors,
Beautiful pictures.
man,
Beautiful pictures, yeah.
Never had an issue or a problem.
No, but he kept that thing going. And even the camera. I mean, I don't know how we. Honestly, I look back now. I'm not sure how we kept anything going. Because all those electronic things, none of them were made to sit outside.
Yes,
and,
below freezing.
Well, and then it rained, and then you'd have the rain blowing in, and so it was a constant battle.
Yes.
It just seemed like we had few and far between days of warm sunshine.
And of course, we did this for like 6 weeks straight.
Yes.
So you had all kinds of weather and
Yes.
all kinds of conditions,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
and every day it was like a fun challenge. But I'll tell you, we got some fabulous, absolutely fabulous pictures.
We did.
Just incredible.
Now, Santa, I think we should take just a quick break.
Oh,
And this
speaking
time,
of this,
we're going to talk about
virtual
visits. You may have noticed we have a slightly different background that we normally have.
Let me just. This
I
is
should
my
get
office
over here.
This is where I get my
this
letters.
is the tree.
And we got the tree, and so we are doing virtual visits here.
Yeah.
And if you're interested in having a virtual visit with Santa or Santa and Mrs. Claus, you can actually go to thenorthpolepress.com.
Yes.
And contact the boss.
Send us an email.
Send it to Mary.
And
because Santa has a bad habit of double booking stuff.
Yeah.
So sorry, I've done it many times. But
anyway. If you're interested, just send me an email, and then we'll look at our schedule.
And we'll give you all the particulars.
Yeah, give you the prices. What we do, just to give you a quick snapshot, we use Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is.
And we record it.
Yeah, the whole visit is recorded, and so you get a copy of that shortly after the visit is over.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And you can even invite some family members.
Oh yeah, you can invite.
So we have some that
aunts, uncles, friends, whatever.
Yeah.
The more the merrier.
That's right. That's right.
So if you're interested in doing a virtual visit with us, we'd be happy to do it. So just contact Mary at thenorthpolepress.com.
Yeah.
And we'll try and slot you in for this year or for future.
Yeah.
So and I've got many families that
we've done this for years.
We do this for years.
Yeah.
I mean, we got kids in their teens now.
I know.
They grow up so fast.
Yeah, but
we still have a great time with it, and they still believe in us.
Yeah.
And we want to keep that going. So give us a try. You might have a more fun. And I'll tell you, it's better than trying to fight the malls and everything else.
That's true. Yeah.
Right. And you don't have to worry about. You'll pick the time you want, and you can show up in pajamas, or you can show up in your favorite Christmas clothes.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, that's our commercial for that. So getting back to
Tankers. So one of the things, of course, as we're talking about our memories of doing different things, one of our most meaningful memory is the first year we were there. It was a weekday, and there was a mom and a dad, and they had a handicapped teenage son, and he was kind of in almost like a rolling cart or a cot. He wasn't really in a wheelchair. He was
beyond
more
a
horizontal.
wheelchair. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And they were kind of looking in, and so I went out.
Just kind of shaking their heads.
Yeah, I went out to him and I said, "Well, do you want a photo with Santa?" And they said, "Oh, well, you can't do that. And I said, well, sure we can. I said, sure. I said, Santa can come down off the sleigh. I said,
we can arrange a few things.
Yeah, and I said, the camera's on a tripod. I said, we can change.
And Tim was like, oh yeah, I got this.
Yeah, so, and we did have room in there to accommodate them. So, so sure enough, we took a picture or a couple pictures.
Several, yeah.
And the parents cried.
Yeah, they just broke down and cried.
Because of,
they said for years, I guess their son at that time was about 14.
Yeah, he was a teenager and never had a picture with
They
Santa.
never were able to get a picture with Santa because, again, you can't go just roll them into a mall and, and we said, no, we'll do whatever it takes to change this. So we did. And boy, I'll tell you, that was just, and the most tender thing, oh, bless their hearts. They bought every picture they could possibly
we had
get.
Packages.
Yeah, and they
bought the biggest package there was. And it's one of those things that honestly their son was very, very handicapped. I don't know that he actually ever realized what was going on with Santa.
I think he did.
But Mom and Dad did.
But yeah.
And Mom and Dad I can't even begin to tell you the joy on their faces that their son finally got a chance, like other kids, to sit for a photo with, Santa and Mrs. Claus. And so anyway, they were just thrilled. And then the next
year, what was funny was it the next year? The next year they came by again and did the same thing. Yeah. But then, after we stopped doing it at Tanger because we couldn't freeze any more than we already had, we found them in another venue where we were doing like a weekend special kind of thing. Yeah. And lo and behold, they pulled up, and it was like a family reunion to the max. Yeah. And we just had the best time with that. And that was nice because it was indoors and it was warm.
But that's one of those nice things that when you have, we didn't really think about it, to be honest with you, when we did this. But when we were by ourselves and we had our own venue, we could do that. We didn't have to ask anybody permission to, can I move the camera? Can I get off the sleigh? Can I do this? Can I do that? It was ours, so we went ahead and we did, we could accommodate him.
One of the reasons why we never did malls, or I never did malls, is in the mall, it's all about get the picture, get the kid off. Exactly. Get the picture, get the kid off. Yeah. And I've never.
It's not about the visit.
It's not about the visit. It's not about the experience of the child. It's it's like you're in line, get in the picture, get off. Yeah. And I never went for that. And one of the reasons why we decided to do it at Tanger is we said we can control that.
Yeah.
And we did. If we want to make a long visit out of this. And believe me, I had a lot of kids tell me some things that they wouldn't tell ordinary people.
Well, and that's true, too. And I think one of the things that, on the other side of that spectrum, where, we were with that handicapped boy, there was another little girl that came in and sat with Santa for a long time. And she was in an abusive home. And so was telling Santa about, the issues that her mom had with her, I don't know, his boyfriend or husband or whatever, I don't remember now. But as you just said, he didn't have to push her off his lap and say, I'm sorry, we need to accommodate these other kids.
Go talk to that policeman over there. No, and I did what I needed to do on that, and that's all I'm going to say about that. But anyway, it does lend itself to a more heartwarming visit and a more proactive.
Yes.
Something that the kid's never going to forget.
No.
Oftentimes the family's never going to forget.
Yeah.
So, and that's what we enjoy doing. And these virtual visits are the same way.
Yeah.
I get to ask them, or they get to ask me anything they want.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
Mrs. Claus and I will gladly answer. Well.
But we had, I think the wonderful thing about that was all the wonderful visits that we had. And we did have kids, because it was a Tanger. We had kids that visit us, as Joe said, from all these different states.
We still have kids that contact us from those visits.
Yes.
So,
and so that was really wonderful. And like I said, it was and then, as Joe said, finally after the second season, even with everything we tried, we couldn't make it work.
So that's our mall story. So now, we have lots of things to do. It's getting close to Christmas here.
Yes.
So we better push on. But we want to thank you guys for joining us again. And remember, we put these out on the 10th and the 24th of every month at, a visit with Santa and Mrs. Claus, or behind the scenes with Santa and Mrs. Claus.
Yes.
So on our YouTube channel.
Yeah.
So please continue to join us, and we'll give you some more stories that are kind of fun and heartwarming down the road.
Absolutely.
So thanks for now.
Thank you.
Take care and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.